Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to episode 35 of the Hardly Millennial podcast, where we are young and we're dumb and we are full of
opinions.
Opinions, ladies and gentlemen, all just opinions. And we have something exciting for you guys today. I'm Adam.
Oh, well, fuck, I'm Matthew.
And we have something exciting for you guys today, in that we have nothing planned today. We're going with the flow today, Matthew.
I have something planned to start out with that I need to tell the world.
I think I know what it is.
So, something happened that royally fucked my afternoon up.
Yep.
I was having a great day, guys. I slept in late. I felt great. I woke up. I had cereal. I never have cereal. I had fucking Pops. They were delicious.
Good old Pops.
All right. Adam found a pack of cigarettes today, which is fantastic. It was a great fucking day. And then I took a nap, and I woke up from my nap, and it all went down the shitter, guys.
Yep.
The whole thing went to shit. So, first of all, I ran out of cream for coffee when I woke up. So I had to have milk in my coffee, which is not the same, okay? It's not the same. So I struggled through that, made it through, and then I went to grab a brownie from a box of brownies that we had on the table, and it was the last one, which kind of sucked, but I was happy. At least there was one left. So I ate half the brownie. It was delicious. Put it down for a moment. Picked it back up a few minutes later, bit into it. And there was something very hard and crunchy in my brownie.
Interesting, Matthew. Please go on.
Well, I thought to myself, what the fuck? And these particular brownies have little crispy bites on the top, little candy bites.
Yeah.
So I was thinking to myself, fuck, there must have been a malfunction with the machine, and there's like a gigantic crispy bite of candy inside my brownie, right?
Like, lucky you.
Yeah.
Right?
So, of course, I try to bite it again, and it's hard as fuck. It's not working. So I spit it out. And it all comes pouring down on my logistics system. And I realize I have indeed lost my tooth. My tooth fell out of my face, guys.
Oh, my God.
My fucking molar fell out of my fucking face.
It's true. I was witness. I was there.
Now, it's insane because, see, I don't have any pain. There's no blood.
Right.
But there is like a 00 gauge hole in the top of my mouth now.
And did you say part of your tooth is still there too?
Yeah, like the stub,
right.
like right before the root, that part of the tooth is still up in there. And I think that's why there's no pain yet. So it's all hanging by a wire, guys. I couldn't be stopped. So I went to Walmart.
Right.
And I bought myself some antiseptic. And I swished it around. And then I shoved some gauze in there, and I said, damn it, Adam, let's podcast. And we're podcasting, guys.
And we are podcasting.
So if I sound funny for some reason, it's because I'm down a tooth.
Oh, my God. It was so weird when it happened, too. I just never heard of, especially because you're eating something soft. Like, it'd be one thing if you're eating, like, an apple, and it got stuck in the apple or something.
There was no crunch. It wasn't like pop or nothing. Just all of a sudden, my tooth just wasn't in my face anymore.
Oh, my gosh.
It was rough.
Fuck. Well, just go to the dentist and have them fix you up, Matthew. Have them give you a brand new tooth.
Well, what's funny is I found myself, the first thing I was doing is not even cleaning my mouth. I was trying to find the piece of tooth. And then I found it, and I was trying to, like, clean off the piece of tooth. I think something in my brain thought that, like, if I just clean this really good and make it look nice, they can just put it back.
Right.
I don't know. And then as I was cleaning it, I realized I'm never going to have that tooth again. That tooth is gone. So I just threw it away. I was like, well, whatever. It's never going to be a thing.
You should have put it under your pillow, Matthew.
I don't think it works like that, Adam.
If only, though. Could you I'd be fucking stealing teeth everywhere from everybody.
Stealing teeth?
Fuck yeah.
How do you steal teeth?
I
feel like kidnapping has to happen before you steal teeth.
There are a lot of steps, yes. But
like, you would not get in trouble for being a thief. You would get in trouble for many other things.
Could you imagine if that was just a thing, like a real thing where you put a tooth underneath a pillow and nobody knew how it happened, but you would wake up and that
there would just really be a dollar.
There'd really be a dollar under there.
Like there was actually a tooth fairy that really existed.
Yeah, like nobody would ever be able to see him or see her, him, her. I guess a fairy could be.
It would probably be a non-binary tooth fairy
you're right.
these days.
And they would, I feel like there'd be like teeth hunters, right? Like teeth smashers, what they call them, or the collectors. And they're people who go around and kidnap people and fucking take their teeth.
What if teeth just became really valuable tomorrow?
Well, then
people would sell their own teeth.
Then you'd be digging in the trash for that fucking tooth you just threw away, Matthew.
I have a few teeth I could give up.
Yeah.
I would. If they were worth like $1,000 a piece tomorrow.
Oh, fuck it. If a tooth was worth $1,000 a piece,
you could have 4 of them. Yeah, for sure. For sure.
There was when I got I had all my wisdom teeth removed, right?
Yep. That's an experience.
Yeah. Well, and then you have the dry socket shit. You have to be careful.
Well, you're not
of
supposed
and everything.
to, but yeah.
Well, and I didn't get it, but you just have to be careful of it,
gotcha.
Right?
Yes.
And there was, I remember for like the first like 2 weeks afterwards, like right when it was starting to like heal up, right? I kept with my tongue, like tonguing this fucking hole that was like in the back left corner,
no, it's
right?
not good.
Well, the reason why I was doing it was because it felt like there was like the way I could describe it was it felt like there was a popcorn kernel like stuck in like the hole somewhere. Like, you know how you could just like the little shaving of like the skin, right? And so I kept like picking at it. I was like, why the fuck can't I get this like little piece of food out or whatever it is? And like I just fucking lost words there.
It's okay. We'll get through this, Adam.
For like 3 or 4 days, I was just constantly picking at it, trying to figure out like how to get this out, you know? And finally, when I got it out, it was literally like half of my tooth. It was like half of my tooth that they just like forgot about.
You think the dentist was like, fuck
out.
it, that piece will be fine.
Yeah, like I don't know what it was, but also I took it out. It was like just like a sliver of it, but it was definitely like the root included. And I was like, motherfucker forgot part of my tooth during this fucking surgery.
I'd call him. I'd be like, I want $20 back.
Right?
You didn't take it all out.
I was even, you know what, there was a brief second where I was like, I feel like I need to call this dentist, be like, look, bitch, you fucking forgot my part of my tooth in this hole. But yeah, super uncomfortable though.
What a weird thing to happen.
Yours is fucking the weirdest, man. Especially
my tooth just fell out, dude.
Especially because you're eating, like I said, especially because you're eating in something soft. Like that's just, I don't know, that's weird to me.
I mean, in the world's defense, I was eating a brownie, a Hostess brownie, which is probably the most garbage brownie you could possibly eat.
Yeah, but at the same time, I feel like if you've had like a sore tooth,
I take back nothing, by the way, guys. I would eat the brownie again.
Like if you had a sore tooth for like the past 2 weeks and then it fell out, at that point, I'd be like, oh, well, that was inevitable, right?
Well, the tooth already had a root canal on it many years ago.
That's right.
So it wouldn't be sore.
Right.
It's not a good scene. I have an appointment on Monday to go and get it fixed. I hope I wake up tomorrow.
I hope you wake up tomorrow.
It's not a good
too.
scene.
So, not to move it to, I mean, well, it's gonna get serious here. But did you hear about?
Let's talk about it.
Yeah,
let's talk about it.
The shooting in New Zealand, the 2 mosques that got shot up.
So I'm a little late to the news. Mm-hmm. I just found out about it right before the podcast.
Yeah.
I was actually skipping through CNN just looking for what was going on today.
Yeah.
And I realized that was the only thing that happened today. It was a big deal.
It is a big deal. Well, there's there were two mosque shootings in New Zealand.
New Zealand?
Done
like by Australia?
By Australia, yeah. Wow. Committed by white men. Okay. They have, the last time I read, they had 3 in custody who they believe had, I don't know if they believe that they were the actual shooters. They just said that they believe they had something to do with it, right? And there's 49 dead.
Yeah,
so 49 are dead.
Dude,
and there's like 50 injured.
Oh my gosh, that's horrible.
Yeah. And it was all live streamed.
So I heard that part. That's the part that I was actually seeing. Now, I guess the news of the actual death is kind of, everybody has heard about it except me.
But everyone's
and now
talking about the online
they're starting
stuff.
To talk about Facebook in particular. Mm-hmm. I guess is the one that I read. You told me that it was on all the platforms. Yeah. The one I'm reading a lot about is that Facebook they live streamed it.
Well, I think so I think they live streamed it through Facebook, right? But then as it was live streaming through Facebook, and after the live stream ended, like everybody, you know how people do. Everybody is sharing it to the different platforms.
So the
and
guys have like
everything.
masks on when they were
And
doing it. Wouldn't they be able to identify them from the video?
Well, I didn't see the video.
Thank goodness.
So so I'm not quite sure what was happening. I would assume so, but you never know. But there was an interesting thing that happened too, where I guess one of the assailants said something in the video. They said, "Subscribe to PewDiePie."
Oh,
is
no,
what they
got
said.
PewDiePie into it?
Yeah, so PewDiePie had to...
Oh, now he has to go on and be like, I don't know anything about these guys.
And to be fair, he wasn't in trouble or anything.
No, but it's still going to hurt his name.
Well, he did put out a statement, and people seem to have his back on this and everything. And he put out a statement, was just saying like that it sucks that this happened, and like it sucks even more that my name was even uttered, during this whole thing. And he sent out his condolences and prayers to the friends and families of the victims and things like that. But yeah, apparently during the live stream, they like yelled, "Subscribe to PewDiePie." So now, as somebody who
what a weird thing to scream.
Exactly. So that was the first thought I had, right? So I haven't seen this video, but the fact that somebody who was killing people had this mode of thought of saying subscribe to PewDiePie, that means one, there was some enjoyment that was being gotten out of this, right? So it turns it from an operation to like a recreational thing.
They had the time to think about other stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's not super far-fetched that they would say the name PewDiePie. For anyone who doesn't know, for any chance, he is like the #1 YouTuber.
Yeah,
and he's very, very well known for having the most subscribers.
Yeah.
For many, many years. So he's incredibly famous.
Right.
So for someone it's not like they knew him personally or anything.
Right.
Just to clear that up. Like,
yeah.
His name is very, very well known. We have some older viewers, I'm sure.
Touche,
like our parents who may not know who PewDiePie is.
Well, and to extend off of that too, with more information, the reason why the whole subscribe to PewDiePie thing is because there's another YouTube channel, an Indian YouTube channel, T-Series, that's like the closest to reaching PewDiePie subscribers. Yeah, so everybody's like, no, keep PewDiePie #1.
Yes. So for anyone who doesn't know, he's incredibly famous.
So
I don't think he had anything to do with it.
No, I don't either. And I don't think anybody does. But so they do believe through the different, and I've read through sources like CNN, anywhere from CNN, Fox, Breitbart, so anywhere from the most extremes to the more moderate ones, and everybody's in agreement that it was definitely not specifically white supremacists, as in like the group, the white supremacy group, but like it was like done in the name of type of thing.
Very weird. Am I just ignorant to this? I assumed that New Zealand, nothing bad ever really happened there. Isn't New Zealand a pretty chill place?
Well, funny you say that. So during one of the articles I read, they were talking to the Prime Minister of New Zealand about this. And one of the things that, I believe it's a she, one of the things that she said was now the division, because of this incident, she goes, unfortunately, I can foresee us starting to see the kind of division now, the extremist division that like you see in America right now, and now it's going to come over to New Zealand because it wasn't an issue before, but now with this particular event,
this is a big one.
Yeah, and I think it's the worst shooting in New Zealand history.
I believe it. It's probably the only.
Yeah, so
I don't know about that. I'm sure there's others, but nothing really terrible happens a whole lot. Shit doesn't blow up in New Zealand very often. So that's very strange that it happened there.
Do you think this like surge of this, like for events like the one that happened in New Zealand, do you think that stuff is related to Trump, or do you think Trump is maybe a side effect of it, or do you think the two are completely unrelated? Because a lot of people would argue the reason why you're seeing attacks like this is because Trump's America, right? Because Trump's a racist.
No, I think that it would have happened with or without Trump.
You think so?
No. I think it was happening before him. It would have happened whether or not. I guess you could make arguments that he perpetuates it. Maybe he makes it happen faster or harder. But no, the whole targeting mosques and Muslims against Christians, that's been a thing for thousands of years.
Right.
Actually, anyone who knows any kind of medieval history or ancient history knows that since the Muslims and the Christians have existed, they have not particularly gotten along.
Right.
Not so much because they hate each other's religion, more so it was a man-made dispute for it's a land thing. They wanted each other's wealth kind of thing. So I think that there's always been that going on, and it's a modern iteration of that.
Yeah.
I don't know. There's a big, long history to it. I think it has to do with us going into the Middle East. I think it has to do not just under Little Bush, but all the way back to his father. It's such a huge, long story, dude. I mean, I don't really care to get into all of that, to tell you the truth.
Right.
But no, I don't think it's an accident, and I don't think that it's one person who made it all happen. I think it's a storm that's been building up for a long, long time. There's a lot of bandwagoning too, I think.
Yeah, well, and I think that's what a lot of like leftists right now would argue, right? Is because of Trump, because the argument is that Trump's a racist, a sexist, all of those, a genderist, whatever other isms there are now.
Yeah, but it didn't even happen in America. It happened in New Zealand.
Right, but I mean, America's, arguably the most influential, country in the world.
Yeah.
I mean, it's our media that influences everything. There was somebody, I can't remember who I was listening to, but it was, somebody was talking, I was watching this interview. It was actually on the Joe Rogan podcast. I mentioned it to you a little bit, where they had an expert on there who was done research and everything into like the Russian troll farms and fake Twitter accounts and how those possibly, fix elections or, sway elections, or they have the possibility to do so at least. And one of the things they were talking about that I felt was interesting, because I never really thought about it this way, was just how little and this is just an example in regards to just how we influence the world and we don't understand it sometimes, is like how little we know about Russia and like their politics, but how much Russians know about America and their politics. And I can argue that with a lot of other countries also. When there's an election here in America, the whole world's watching that.
Yeah, but I think the Russian people that you and I are thinking of are influential Russian people. Those are the only ones you ever see, are the ones with influence. So the influential American people know what's going on in Russia. The regular people in America don't know. I think if you go to Russia and you spoke to the regular people, like cooking dinner for their 6 kids and stuff, they have no fucking interest or clue about American politics.
I don't know. I think they do. I think
Why would they care about
people,
that when they're fucking poor and trying to go to work and raise kids and do the same things we're doing?
I'm not saying all of them, but I'm saying like, for example, when New Zealand has an election, right? Nobody knows the 2 people who are running for prime minister in New Zealand.
Okay,
but
yeah,
when
the whole
America's
world
having
knows
an
that.
election, everybody knew it was Hillary Clinton versus
Okay,
Trump.
yeah.
You know what I mean?
I'll give you that.
So based off of those kind of instances,
I don't think anyone in Russia knows who Martha McSally is.
Oh no!
I don't think anyone knows her fucking name.
Not
you know
that
what I mean?
deep. Not that deep.
But for sure, the president, that's the leader of the world.
Well, and it's just arguably that our culture, just in general, is a very influential culture. I mean, pretty much all of media that anybody fucking consumes, whether it's TV, movies, or the internet, comes from America, right? In the countries that it doesn't, it's usually because they have sanctions on those types of things or blockings.
Yes, every country has their own like news system, though. Like the people in France don't watch CNN.
Right.
They watch French news. People in Germany watch German news. And sometimes they report on the stuff going on in America, but most of the time it's stuff going on in their country.
But, I mean, regardless of whether it is a reason or not, there are people who are going to be blaming Trump for this. Which drives me crazy.
Well, I think the dude who's really gonna fucking get it is Zuckerberg. Do you think that Facebook's in trouble for it being live streamed? First of all, how do you prevent a live stream massacre? How do you foresee that happening and stop it before it starts?
And that's what I was just
it's impossible.
That's what I was just going to say. So I don't think Zuckerberg would actually be in trouble because I think it's understood that it's like...
Dude, they took it down as soon as they found out about it.
Yeah.
They were all over that shit.
Oh, yeah.
But the thing is, with the internet, the person who owns Facebook, okay, that there's no person who owns it, but the team of people who run Facebook and who moderate Facebook, they only really have so much power. They can't turn every post off all at once.
Right.
So if people are reposting this video faster than the moderators can take it down, it will grow instead of decrease.
Yeah.
That's just how the algorithms of the internet work.
Well, and that's how...
So people were reposting it faster than the moderators could take it down.
Well, and that's what happens with every video, too. Any video that comes out that, may not be a video people want online. Oh, no, it's not. I don't think it's any social media platform's fault. It's the people's fault.
I think he's going to get blamed for it. He's going to get blamed for it hardcore.
I don't think he will, because there are other things that have... I can't think of specific examples right now, but things like this happen all the time. But that's why... what's it called? Live Leaks? Was that the name of the sites? Have you ever heard of Live Leaks? Well, not WikiLeaks. So there used to be this... I haven't been on there in ages, so I don't know even if it's around anymore. But there used to be this website called Live Leaks. And it was videos of... It was kind of like the dark web of YouTube, right?
Oh.
So there would be videos on... So any videos that would get taken down on other social media platforms, for example, you could go to Live Leaks, basically, and be able to see them. They've had anything from suicide videos on there to the cartel murdering people, cutting people's heads off.
Oh, that sounds fucking terrible.
Oh, it is fucking terrible. I remember there was one video that was on there of an instance of there was this lady in some third world country that was beating her kids or something like that, and a group of people set her on fire while everybody watched. But the reason why I bring these up is just to make the point that videos like this come up online all the time.
Right.
The moderators do take them down, but once it's online, it's immortal at that point. You'll always be able to find it. Right now, I'm sure if we...
Well, they have to do something.
Yeah.
You cannot allow a group of guys to murder 50 people on open internet on live stream and do nothing. There's a point where the bowl tips, bro, and then once the water's out of the bowl, there's no going back.
Well, how do you think you prevent that, though?
I don't know. They have billions of dollars to figure it out, though. They need to fucking figure it out.
It's almost kind of like the gun argument, right? It's, you either just take away guns from everybody or you let everybody have the guns. It's kind of the same thing. In this case, I would argue that the only way to really solve it is Facebook saying, okay, well, we're taking away live streaming. Which they probably won't do, but that's the only foreseeable solution I could see to making sure something like this doesn't happen again. Take away live streaming, right?
There's no way to tell what someone's going to stream before they start streaming it.
Exactly.
Even Twitch, which is arguably the largest streaming platform, okay? There are people every single day. One of the biggest problems they have is porn stars advertise on Twitch. So they say they're playing a game because you're supposed to play a game when you're on Twitch.
Right.
They say they're doing that, but really they're just showing themselves off and having people go to other websites to pay to hang out with them for a while. It's a really big problem on Twitch. And Twitch is very good about taking those people down as soon as they find them. But every single day there are people who are doing that. So there's no possible way Twitch can tell if Zebra123, the user, is going to be doing pornography or going to be playing Halo. Until they start doing it, there's no way to tell. So you almost, as long as live stream is a thing, that's why they took live stream away from TV. There's no such thing really as live TV. Even when they say it's live TV, the elections and shit, there's a couple seconds delay. In case there's a wardrobe malfunction. Remember, we all saw a titty at the Super Bowl, Janet Jackson. Ever since then, now there's a few second delay, even on the Super Bowl.
That's not why there's a delay, though.
Yeah, if some shit goes down, they can take it down real quick so people don't see it.
But that's not why there's a delay. Nobody was like, we're going to make a delay on live streams. So
Yeah, it's in case they have to censor it, dude.
No, there's always a delay because there's always lag between the thing that's recording it and where it's going. It has nothing to do with them trying to take something down. And a couple of seconds delay isn't going to be enough time to be able to do that.
Is there that same delay on live streaming?
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, then why can't they just use that delay to take it down?
Well, at that point,
why can't the algorithm find it within that delay and take it down before it starts?
Well, maybe technology just isn't quite up to par with that yet, and you also have to teach the AIs what to look for, and you have to make sure that they don't mistake something that isn't harmful as something harmful. I'm sure there's a lot of ifs, ands, and buts with it.
I'm pretty sure that if you go in the middle of the Super Bowl and you start yelling "fuck," they'll bleep you. Before it's not actually live. No, you'll get a bleep in there.
No, we see things happen all the time. I believe there was the Oscars is a perfect example. The Oscars are always live, right?
Yeah.
There was an instance a couple years ago where somebody said fuck when they weren't supposed to say fuck. It showed up on TV. It wasn't bleeped or anything because it was live. There was a couple seconds lag, but it wasn't enough to be like, oh, well, we got to cut that or we got to bleep that. The lag has nothing to do with people trying to make sure bad things aren't happening.
If that is the case, then I guess it's the same thing. If you'd have to take away all of TV.
Well, that's just
Otherwise, people can just say fuck on TV.
Well, and that's just it.
So what stops people? Why don't people just get up and show their balls in the middle of the Oscars? Why don't people fuck the Oscars up more often?
I don't know. I guess people are just more. There are more decent people than non-decent people, Matthew.
No, there has to be a system in place, Adam. I don't just trust that millions of people are allowing the Super Bowl to happen every year without an issue.
you used the Oscars as an example. I'm sure if any of these actors or actresses or producers went up and showed their balls, they're going to get blacklisted in Hollywood pretty fucking quick, and their career's going to be over. For what? 2 seconds of showing your balls because you thought it would be funny?
So that... Perfect. You got to the answer your side. That's what I was looking for. That's what they need to do with the internet. There needs to be internet police. And I hate it because I love the internet.
Right.
Fuck the police. But in reality here, what we're talking about, you need to have internet police. There needs to be a repercussion to your actions of what you put up on the internet.
Well, and we've kind of touched base on this before, and right now that exists in the sense, but it exists separate individually, right, within the platform. So Twitter has their own moderators that moderate the way they want to moderate. Facebook has their own moderators.
But I don't mean like you're going to lose your account. I mean like you're going to get in real trouble.
Right.
Like you're actually going to get a ticket or jail time or some kind of repercussion to keep you from posting that kind of stuff.
Well, that goes back to our conversation in regards to social media platforms be considered public platforms and to be treated like a public space, because then you can do things like that. But let's say something like Twitter, that's private, right? That was the argument. So if somebody does that on Twitter, should there be any repercussions, or should it just be up to Twitter? They're privately owned.
I think that there should be laws of the internet that all platforms have to abide by.
And that's the argument.
Every time there's a new frontier, you make laws for it. There's laws of the ocean. There's laws for outer space. Yes. We don't even operate in outer space very often. Mm-hmm. But the first thing we did as soon as someone got there, we made a bunch of rules for it.
Exactly. I mean, that's literally what
they need rules for the internet.
Yeah, that's literally what I've been arguing. I think social media platforms, because of what they are and the nature of how they operate, should all be treated like a public space. Like the same way how you can't go on to the side of the street and show your balls to traffic driving by.
Yeah. Well, right now you can go on the middle of the internet and show your balls and totally get away with it.
That's my point.
Even if people say naughty, fuck you. I could do it every single day and get away with it. So what if they traced back the IP or figured out who you are and they send you a fine? You get fined.
Yeah, I'm okay
And if
with
you're
that.
real crafty and you can get through that, we find out who your family is, and now we send your mom a fine.
Right.
Because your mom's not a hacker, I promise. She doesn't know how to get through that.
Right.
So if we can't find you, well, now you just put your family under burden. Mm-hmm. So knock your shit off, or we're going to keep fining your family $1,000 at a time.
I agree with you fully. And unfortunately, it's not a popular belief, because then you're getting into the issue of, free speech and things like that.
Well, there is no freedom on the internet. No one has any internet rights.
Well,
that have been written as
Well,
law.
you're right. They don't have rights, but I mean, you can argue that they do have freedom because, just as you said, people can do shit like put their balls on the internet and it will just live there. And what's
but
the worst? Their accounts will get taken down, right?
I agree with you, but I mean that's not freedom in my opinion. There's a difference between freedom and anarchy.
Right.
The internet is always becoming anarchy. It's so much freedom without any kind of moderation that there's not even people governing themselves anymore.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I agree. There's definitely it needs to be regulated to some way, shape, or form. It just does, And I know that's not a popular belief to a lot of people, but we haven't had things like social media before. It's a totally fucking new piece of technology that we're trying to figure out. And just as we've talked about before, how like TV has the FCC, right? The regulated censorship. Well, you need something like that for the internet. You just do.
But I think it's going to be another 30 years before we have the people in power who will do that.
Really? You think that long?
Well, yeah, you have to wait for the people there now to literally, I don't want them to do this, but they literally have to die and make way for the next group. The people who have power right now who make laws do not understand the internet. They don't understand it. They don't care to learn about it. And they're not required to learn about it. Mm-hmm. So it's not until they're gone and people younger than them who grew up with the internet, who just simply understand it, then they have the power. Now they can begin to make laws for something.
Right. Well, and I agree with you, but the reason why I think it will happen sooner is because I think, so this is the first big straw, I would say, as far as the shootings being live streamed.
This is one of the worst scenarios that I've heard of. Yeah.
So I think it just unfortunately, it will be events like this that will happen like 2 or 3 more times, and then regardless of who's in office, they're going to have their hands tied and they're going to have to be like, okay, we have to do something about this.
Unless the people vote in representatives who understand it more. I don't know that John McCain 2 years ago when he was alive, do you think that John McCain had the mental capacity to even begin to speak about rules for the internet? Well, you think he understood enough to even start talking about it?
Maybe not personally, but I don't think if it got to that point to where like a president or a senator had their hands tied, I don't think it would be them coming up with the solution. I think it would be them hiring a committee that's able to come up with a solution, probably one filled with people who are a bit younger and understand the internet.
I don't know if that's how government works. That's how like a private company would work. But I don't know if those are our representatives. Those are the people who we vote to make the rules. They're supposed to represent us.
Right.
But we chose people who don't understand the technology that we use.
Right. But at the same time, though, when like a senator proposes a bill, right, they're not personally writing the bill. They have a committee that they hire of people that particular senator hired to write the bill with everything that senator wants in there. And then they propose the bill, and the bill's just under the senator's basically the liaison for that bill. But they're not personally writing the bill. They have a committee that does that. And they hire professionals to do it like that. I'm pretty confident
I don't know
this.
That's how it works, bro. That's how it works.
There's no way the senators are writing these bills by themselves.
No, I think it's literally like the secretaries. And they all get together. They have meetings. They figure out, they say, I'll give into this, you give into that. So they know what they're going to agree on.
Right.
And then their assistants fucking write it up, dude.
No, I don't think so.
I don't think that they outsource private committees to write laws. That's not the government. The whole point of the government is they do that. We're supposed to vote people in who do it.
I'm pretty sure there's... No, I mean, maybe
I truly don't think so.
Maybe it's not third-party committees. Maybe these people are still involved with the government in some way, shape, or form. But I don't think that the senators are personally the ones who write these up, or that their secretaries are the ones who write these up.
I don't know. I really don't... I'm not trying to, like, put you down or say, but like truly,
I feel you.
I really honestly, I think I remember learning in school. You remember the Schoolhouse Rock thing about the bill.
Well, that's even what I was thinking.
There's Mr. What's His Face goes to Washington. That old black and white movie about the dude who becomes a congressman.
Right.
Yeah, they propose the bills, then they vote on them, and then the fucking secretaries write them up.
Kyle, dude.
Kyle, we need you on this one,
man.
bro. We really need you on this one.
So
because I think that the country would be much better run if it was the way you're talking about. I think the reason that it's fucked up is because
I have a feeling
it's not.
I have a feeling this is gonna be one of those situations where we're like both right. Like we're gonna get a response. We're like, well, in this case, this was actually done like this, but when in the case of this, it was actually done by a separate. But Kyle, just comment. Comment to let us know, but because I'm pretty confident in mine also.
It's not like, I mean, when Apple wants to roll out a new iPhone, right? They hire a committee of engineers who know all the things about phones and comfort, and they design a phone, and they make them this one. They probably make them 3 blueprints and say, pick one,
right,
Mr. Jobs, back in the day. Steve Jobs is not the one who made up iPhones, but we'll get a kick out of that. Here you go, Mr. Cook. Pick one of these.
Right.
But I don't think that's the way that the government works, dude. I don't think the government hires outside people to do anything.
No, well, the reason why I think they do is because I don't think that because like if a senator were to hire an outside committee to write something, right? And like I said, maybe it's not even an outside committee. Maybe it's something that is within the government, right? Or some committee within the government. But I think that they would. The reason why you could do that is because the senator gets all the say. They're basically just hiring the people to be like, the senator goes, hey, is it possible for us to do this? Well, yeah, but we would have to do this. All right, make it happen. And the committee would be forced to write up something that fit in that senator's view. Are you looking it up right now? I hope you are, because I'm really curious to just solve this so that we know the answer to it.
Be written to apply only to House members.
Because then I think
I typed it in, and
because then I think of people like 29-year-old Ocasio-Cortez, and there's no way she's fucking writing that shit herself. She's fucking hiring people to do it for her.
Who actually writes the laws? Because legislation can be written by anyone, but only a member of Congress can introduce a bill for consideration. The actual text of proposed bills frequently is drafted by legislative aides working either for members of Congress or for congressional committees.
Yeah, so they're just not outside committees, but they are committees.
Legislative aides.
And committees.
Working for committees, working for members or committees of Congress. But they're legislative aides. They're just the secretaries. The secretaries write it. They're literally aides. It says legislative aides working either for members of Congress or committees. It doesn't say contracted for, or it just literally says the actual text of proposed bills frequently is drafted by legislative aides, which is secretaries.
That's so fucked up that it's done that way.
I know, it's fucking retarded. You know what else is really fucked up that blew my mind when I first learned about it? Which apparently I'm wrong, okay, because the forefathers say that I'm super wrong. It's in the Constitution. This is so important.
What?
But the whole idea of being judged by a jury of your fucking peers
I know.
bothers me a lot, Adam.
I know.
And maybe I just don't understand it, guys. It could be that I'm ignorant, because it's worked for almost 300 years, and it was so important that they literally put it in the Constitution. Like, it has to be done that way.
Yeah.
When I was a kid, I literally thought that was a job you could have. I thought some people wanted to become jurors, and you went to college, and you were trained how to be a juror, how to judge non-biasly a situation. Right. I thought you had to be trained and have some requisites for that. Some no, you don't. They literally pick motherfuckers at random.
Yeah.
And they say, go judge the rest of this person's life.
The biggest issue I have with that is, and I actually never thought about the way that you mentioned, that would be cool if there were people who's like, just as you said, had a job to do it
like
unbiasedly,
psychology
right?
degrees and shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, like you had a degree in it.
What always bothered me about it was you're judged by a jury of your peers, right? Well, when you're choosing 12 random fucking people, those aren't my peers. I don't fucking know any of those people.
You know what's worse than that? It's not just 12 random fucking people. It's 12
Selective.
clinically chosen people. Each side, the prosecution and the defense, gets to fucking critique the members first. And if they deem that they're biased in any way, they scrap them.
Yeah.
So it's 12 clinically chosen individuals who are gonna fucking choose the rest of your life.
If you're going...
Fuck that.
Yeah, I agree. If you're going to choose if you're going to go the route of choosing, like, random people, I would...
Make it random, baby.
Yeah, well, make it random, and I would argue that there's 12 of them, right? So make 6 of them people that know the defendant, and then you make 6 of them random, because they all have to agree on one verdict. So now when they're in the room... There are 6 people who know you, who know your character, who know your behavior, who knows why you do the things you do, and now they're forced to convince 6 other people that you're guilty or innocent.
Well, because that's just screaming for bias.
Screaming for bias, but I mean, I think things like that have to be considered, though, too.
I do, too. I mean, I think the whole reason that they do it is like, because the law is the law. It's black and white, right? Except it's really not black and white because you have a court case for every single individual case that happens, which means there's a whole lot of gray area in between. It is not black and white. But everyone wants to argue that the law is black and white and that if you have bias, it's going to put gray area in there. I agree with you that it's already in there. There's already a prosecutor who is literally being paid. His career is to make sure that I lose.
Yes.
Whether or not he believes that I am innocent or not, that is not his job. His job is to do everything in his power to have me go to jail.
Yeah, exactly.
And if he gets it done, he gets rewarded for that. Then you have the defense, who just equal and oppositely doesn't care if you're innocent or not. You can tell your defense lawyer, I fucking did it. And he'll say, don't you ever say that again.
Right.
You know what I mean? His job is to prove that you didn't do it. So I think there already used to be a stigma on lawyers for that reason, because they don't really care about justice. They care about winning their case.
Yeah, paycheck.
Right? But there was never any stigma on the jury. And the jury is the ones who actually choose whether you're innocent or guilty.
Yeah. And the thing is, the way that they choose these random people, just as you said, they'll have the prosecutor and the defense, choose, I'm at random, or not at random, but like, selectively choose them. Well, then I feel like you're not putting enough things into consideration. Like, what's the education level of these 12 fucking people? Do they all not make it past the 5th grade, or do they all have like PhDs and what is it that they have it in? You know what I mean? It's just like, it's a bunch of shit like that does play part in a decision.
And they never used to. I didn't live during the forefather days.
Right.
Okay, but let's think about it logically. During those days, in the 1800s, early, the late 1700s, early 1800s, okay, there were many, many places in the country. If it wasn't like New York City or Chicago or something big, if it was anything else, there was only, 1,000 people living in the town?
Yeah.
2,000 people living in the town? That was probably a big one.
Right.
So inevitably, everyone's going to know everyone. We live in a town of about 30,000 people.
Yeah.
And it seems like everyone knows everyone.
Exactly.
Okay,
yeah.
It's a small fucking town.
Right.
Well, just imagine if it was 1/10 this size.
Yeah.
It would be impossible for you to find someone who doesn't have bias. Inevitably, every person on the jury would have encountered you at some point, would know you or your family or your cousin or something. So there would be that bias. There would be what you're saying, where they take into consideration your character and who you are. They took into consideration who was your father, what name do you have, blah, blah, blah. Now, there's so many people that they can afford the luxury of finding people with no bias at all.
Right.
But that's not the way that it was developed to be. It was developed to be truly your peers, 12 people who know you and who can judge you.
Right.
But that's not what it is anymore.
But see, these reasons that we're discussing and these examples that we're discussing right here is exactly why there's such a division and an uproar in our country right now. Because that's the argument, right? You have one side that's saying Constitution is sacred, don't ever change it, don't ever move it.
I'm all about the Constitution.
Which I am too.
Right.
But at the same time, I can definitely understand the other side with instances like this, whether it's guns or social media or how our courts are ran, to where there are just things that are not the same today that they were back when the Constitution was written.
And we've all heard the term living document, right? Mm-hmm. So nothing else is ever called a living document, just the Constitution.
Yeah.
Because what that means is that it can be changed.
Yes, it can be amended. The amendments can be amended.
And when you have a change like that, whatever that change is, now that is the solid Constitution. That's the living part of it.
Yeah.
It can change and it can evolve over time.
But we've become so, afraid of amending anything anymore.
Well, you got to be super duper careful.
True.
I do agree that an amendment should be the most strenuous decision on the country. It should have to almost be damn near unanimous.
True.
For it to change the Constitution.
I can agree with that.
But I do think, like you said, it should not be such a faux pas to try to start a following to amend the Constitution.
And that
doesn't make you un-American.
Yes, that's a good way to put it, because I think that's really where the frustration is coming from the progressive groups. Is that, and maybe it's why they've become so extreme in their views, right? Because I would argue that at one point it was just, well, we should probably amend this part because of this and this and this, and immediately you get this pushback from the right going, no, you fucking snowflakes, you can't fucking do that. So meanwhile, they're like, well, fuck you, take away all the guns then, asshole.
Exactly. And that is why it should be so hard to change it.
Yes.
Because the forefathers were pretty fucking smart, dude. They put their lives on the line. They didn't think they were going to win when they started the Revolutionary War. And then they fucking won.
Yeah.
They Donald Trumped that shit.
Yeah.
Okay. And I don't think that they took it for granted, dude. I think they really thought about it hard, and they came up with a really good document and a good system.
Yeah.
And it's almost like they knew it's going to get bigger than what it is now. And how can we keep it grounded once it gets so much bigger?
Right.
Now we're at the point, there's 500 million of us. There's almost 500 million fucking Americans running around in America, dude.
Right.
That's a shit ton of human people. Maybe the ideas, the concepts that are in place now are good concepts, but the way that they are orchestrated needs to change.
Yeah.
Certain things need to change. And I don't think that's a bad thing. I don't think that if someone came out and wrote a really good document to prove it, I don't think that would make them un-American or make them be a terrorist or hate the Constitution in any way.
No, not at all.
You can respect something and want to make it better.
Yeah, exactly. And there are definitely things, especially with the gun argument. That's a big one right now, right? The people, either somebody wants to take the guns away or somebody wants to keep the guns. That's something where it's okay, guys, we obviously have some weapons, some firearms here that were not around when the Constitution was written.
Exactly.
It's probably worth looking at now and being okay, we should probably amend this a little bit.
The forefathers had absolutely zero concept of the internet.
Yeah.
They had no way of even having a relation to it or having any concept of what it might be.
Right.
Or they were totally in the dark to the internet, dude. And rightfully so. I'm not saying that they're wrong for that. But there is no way they could have possibly written a set of laws that would work for the internet.
Yes.
When they had no comprehension of anything even close to the internet.
Yeah. Well, and when
it's time to write some shit specifically for the internet.
Yes, I agree. And when I was watching this interview with this lady about the Russian troll farms and everything, and the way that it was interesting, because I think when we all thought of like Russian troll farms or like, these fake accounts that were made to like sway elections and everything, I think we were all thinking kind of extremes, right? So you go there and it's some random name that is obviously like bot generated and they're constantly just stirring pots or writing things, whatever it is, right? But what I found out that they were doing things where they were literally infiltrating communities. So they would have these names like Woke Lydia or something like that, right? And they wouldn't even post anything political. It'd be like an LGBTQ page, right? And they would only post things about, oh, I think this actress is really cute, or like, oh, like peace, love, gay people, yay. And it would just constantly be that. And then all of a sudden it'd be like fuck Donald Trump. Just one post. Just, oh, the LGBT community, we can't stand by somebody like this. So they infiltrate themselves into these communities, and then they just, do these little pokes of like, hey, if you're part of this community, we don't agree with this. We don't agree with this.
It's funny how much of that happens. You know that I actually watched a video the other day on YouTube, and it was a rabbit hole that I got into, okay? And what it was is it was a rabbit hole. It originally started out how to talk to people, and then it got into how to talk to girls, and then it got into like the proper way to like stalk people. Okay.
Interesting.
Very interesting, right?
This is a YouTube video?
It was a YouTube video.
Okay.
I had no interest in actually stalking anyone,
right,
but I was very interested in the video. I was like, let's fucking watch it, right? And what they suggested was when trying to get to know someone, the best way to do it is to do it on Facebook, right? To get to find them on Facebook. And they suggested, this person, who was actually very smart, I think, said, don't just friend request the person that you're interested in talking to. Go into their profile, go to their friends, and start friend requesting some of their friends. And then Facebook will say, you have more common friends with this person. And then when you go to friend request them, now all of a sudden you're in their social circle. Now they trust you more. Now they say, oh, how do you know Billy? How do you know Cody? And you can make shit up. And people,
that's shady as fuck.
Adam, if that is just a video about how to pick up girls on Facebook, imagine what people who are given millions and millions of dollars in funding and said, you can keep whatever the extra money is after you spend as much as you can trying to diss Donald Trump. Imagine the things that actual powerful people can sit there and think of.
Exactly.
It's crazy what the human brain can come up with.
Oh, yeah.
I never put together trying to do that. And it seemed so simple to this person.
Yeah, of course.
To go in and infiltrate their friends list first.
And that's exactly how I felt.
I got the chills when I read it. I was like, there are fucking people who do this.
Oh, yeah. Well, and that's how I felt when I was listening to this woman talking about the Russian troll farms. I just used one example, but she was constantly giving me these different ways that these different, and not just Russians, she was talking about all major powers, right? Or all, not even major powers, just all countries do it in all some way, shape, or form, right? But the ways that she was describing that they did it, just as you said with the stalking thing, it was like, wow, that seems so simple, and it's like, and you just don't know, she was even talking about like how they get away with making it sound like that they're, from Texas when they're really living in, fucking Russia, or wherever it is.
There are professionals who will take it the extra mile and actually will learn about psychology and how the brain works. There are professional people, just like there's pickpockets on the street.
Right.
People who know how to bump into you and use movement and momentum to trick you. There's people who are just as knowledgeable about how to use programs to trick you.
Exactly. And going back with like the Constitution, that's exactly why stuff like the internet, you have to have some kind of form of regulation or just rules of how to operate on it, because we have this point now that we've never been at before where we're able to take these social media platforms, or not we, but like people can take these social media platforms and weaponize it. To sway elections or push out an ideal or false information, whatever it is.
Well, people can also use it to to show how great of a singer they are.
Of
and
course.
to be recognized for an amazing talent they have that people would never know otherwise.
Yeah, of course.
Just as good as it can be, it can also be that bad. You know what I mean? It depends how it's used. Facebook and Twitter and YouTube, they're just tools.
Right.
And it's, you can build a house with a hammer, or you can smash someone's face in with a hammer.
Exactly.
It's just a hammer.
But it's wild though. Like,
Have you heard about, there's a thing going on right now. I haven't really read into it, but I've seen a lot of articles about it.
Okay.
And what it is there's websites now that generate random faces.
no, I haven't heard of this.
So apparently up until pretty recently, it was hard to generate a random face that looked a lot like a human. Looked a lot like a regular person, like a Facebook profile page.
Okay.
For whatever reason, I'm not very good at technology. I just run a podcast for a living, It wasn't able to be done, or it was more difficult, or they couldn't write an algorithm to do it. Maybe you had to do it by hand.
Right.
So now there's these websites that are out there who have algorithms written into them, who literally just sit there all day long on auto command and just create millions of pictures of like profile pictures of totally fake, not real people.
Why?
I don't know. I haven't read any of the articles.
Okay.
But apparently it's an issue. For security, for whatever reason, it can be used to trick people more. I don't know. You haven't heard anything about it at all.
Well, the more you're talking about it, I feel like I remember listening to, I think it was like a Rooster Teeth podcast or something. And I remember there was a segment where they were, obviously it was a podcast, so I couldn't see it. I could only hear it.
Right.
But there was some kind of segment where they were like looking at two faces and going like, are you sure that's computer generated? That looks like it's real.
Yeah, so they can computer generate the faces now. They're just on autopilot doing this. Right now as we talk, they're just pumping them out.
That's so weird. There was this there were these videos that I know popped up on Facebook now and then. And I never really checked into the validity of these videos to see if they were legit or just something somebody put together. But I remember this particular video it opened with like a clip of Putin talking to his people or something like that, right? Like
Putin?
an interview.
The Russian
Putin,
dude?
yeah.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
With giving an interview with something, right?
Okay.
And then all of a sudden it takes that clip and it backs up. And it shows another clip side by side with the Putin one of a regular average day Joe like you and I making the same movements and talking and everything, but had like face tracking stuff on him.
Yeah.
And they were able to make this real life video that looked like Putin talking, but it was just this guy. It was all computer animated.
Dude, yeah.
That is fucking scary.
Dude, you've opened up my eyes so much to editing.
Yeah, dude, it's crazy.
Literally, I know it sounds crazy, guys, but I'm telling you, I don't trust any fucking picture that I see anymore.
You shouldn't.
If it's a picture, if it's on a screen, if it's on a digital screen, I don't fucking trust it, man. I'll say it's really cool. I'll say that's amazing. I love the way that looks, how fantastic. But literally none of it is proven at all. You could have a beach with sand.
Yeah.
Okay? And you could have literally the only thing in the picture that you're looking at be 1 grain of sand that's actually a real thing. And everything else around it, you could make a jungle fucking landscape that looks so legit, like you're in the middle of the Congo.
Yep.
With the sounds and the water running. You can make it look like there's water misting onto your fucking camera lens.
Oh, yeah.
All of that. And the only real thing is 1 little grain of sand from a beach. That's actually what the picture was of.
Yep. So my first experience with Photoshop, I think my dad showed me Photoshop when I was super young, like 10 or 11 years old, right?
Yeah.
And my dad uses Photoshop to take old pictures of his family or when he was younger and put it in Photoshop, enhance it, make it look nicer, right?
Okay, yeah.
So he showed me Photoshop and, Adam, come here, let me show you this. And he was showing what you can do with Photoshop and all this. And I remember the first picture I ever fucked with on Photoshop was just this picture of my dad or some childhood friend that they were just standing on a street and you could see the houses on either side of them, right?
Yeah.
Well, over to the right, there was a little patch of grass, right? And this is like a picture from like the early 70s, so it's super saturated color.
Right.
And there was a little patch of grass, and little 11-year-old me discovered this little tool in Photoshop where you could click on the little patch of grass and then basically clone it anywhere you wanted in the picture.
Yeah.
So then before I knew it, just to see if I could do it, 11-year-old me, I just made this kid, instead of staying in the middle of the street, he was staying in the middle of a field.
Of grass.
And it looked real.
And that was what? Photoshop from 2000?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was 11-year-old Adam
We're
doing
in
that.
2019 now, bro.
Yeah, exactly.
It's phenomenal. It's totally phenomenal.
And it's funny, there are times where it's like, because a lot of the times too, the pictures you'll see, it's not even that what you're seeing in the picture isn't actually there, but the colors are like enhanced, right? You know, they want the purples to stand out more than the blues.
Dude, they can build whole cities. In those, there was one movie I watched, I forget what it was, but I feel like The Rock was in it. And there was a big hurricane going on, or not a hurricane. It was an earthquake happening in this major city. Okay,
San Andreas.
Okay,
yeah.
And at one point in the movie, he's flying around in this fucking helicopter because he can't land, and he's going in between skyscrapers and shit. And he goes to save his wife from the top of a building, right? Because he loves her or whatever.
Right.
That entire fucking scene, the only thing that's real is the helicopter, Adam. The only real thing in that whole scene, they're actually flying a helicopter in a fucking grassy field.
Yep.
The behind the scenes, the whole fucking city is all computer generated. All the people you see running around in the streets, all computer generated. They're not real fucking people.
Yep.
The building that they were standing on that he saved her from, it was on
just
the ground.
A platform.
It was just a platform on the actual ground, and then they made it look like it was fucking 50 feet up in the air, and he was saving her. None of it was real.
So when I worked on Oz the Great and Powerful, it was an interesting movie because they actually did both, where they would build real sets, but then they would have computer animated stuff happening around it, right?
Right.
Well, there was one particular scene I remember doing where it was James Franco goes to like a graveyard looking thing to find somebody, right? And they needed me to come in because they literally just needed my hand like up on a rock, and then the camera just panned up like it was him looking up over this rock, right?
Right.
Well, it was funny. So when they called me over to the studio that they were filming this particular scene in, they explained to me what the scene was. And then you walked into the studio, and it was just all blue screen. And then the little set that they had set up, where they had things that were shaped like rocks and everything, but they were all blue. Yeah. They were all just draped over in blue. So the entire thing was I was putting my hand on like a blue wall. And then, like, they were looking up over at just blue. Yeah. And then if you go back and you watch the movie, he's putting his hand on a rock. There's little gravestones everywhere.
And you're like, none of that shit's really there.
Well, and they even added in, like, because he's looking up at somebody who's walking in the distance. Well, when they filmed it with me, there was nobody walking in the distance, you know? So, yeah, it's amazing what you can do with computer animation. But given, like, what I told you about, like, the Putin thing, it's also very scary because that stuff is around now.
Yeah, man. I don't know. There's no way to make people do it the right way.
Yeah,
you know
exactly.
What I mean?
Well, and it gets hard because all it takes is it just takes one hacker, right? You know, somebody who can hack into like cable, right?
Right.
And be able to make one of these videos of them talking as Trump and saying, we're going to nuke North Korea, right? I mean, what then?
What then?
You know?
I don't know. I think that you'll see something change. You'll see some kind of internet laws be made or internet police come around.
Yeah, well, only time will tell.
Or maybe people could just start acting right. That'd be nice
stop
too.
being fucking assholes, everybody.
I have faith. I think that people could.
I have faith,
we could all just get our shit together.
Why can't we all just get along, man? All right, well, I think we're out of time here. I think we're at our hour. Yeah, we're at
Oh, my
our hour.
goodness.
Yeah.
We thought that was just supposed to be the intro conversation, guys. Turned out to be the whole podcast.
Turned out to be the whole podcast.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much for listening, guys. We do always appreciate our listeners and anybody who's watching the YouTube videos, the 2 YouTube videos we have.
Oh, there's more to come, guys.
There's more to come. We promise.
We promise. You think we're talking shit? There's a pipeline, and there are things in the pipeline, guys.
Yes,
we promise.
Just remember, you can follow us on all the social media platforms. The GoFundMe, until I actually take the money out of there, is still going. So you can go to GoFundMe.com/Hardly Millennial if you just want to put, $1, maybe $5, maybe $20. I don't know. Follow your heart.
In the jar, whatever.
But anyways, thank you for listening, guys. Any final words, Matthew?
No, love you guys. And, the support is amazing. So thanks for letting us continue to do this.
Thank you, guys. Bye-bye.
Bye.